The Family Health Podcast is brought to you in partnership with Things Happen, a trusted financial advisor that supports new parents and their families. Things Happen offer the best advice to help parents and their families make informed financial decisions, ensuring a secure and tax-efficient future for their children. The team at Things Happen are highly qualified financial experts who will guide you through the different types of policies to consider as your family expands, taking the stress out of decision making by finding the best deals for your needs, ensuring you and your family are protected no matter how busy life gets. If you already have life insurance, Things Happen will carefully review your existing policy to ensure that it still meets your family's evolving needs, so you know your family is fully protected.
Hello folks, I'm Kate Ball and I'm the founder of Mini First Aid. Welcome to our podcast Family Health by Mini First Aid. I am so pleased that you've taken the time to listen to our podcast, because whether you're in the car, cleaning the house, relaxing with a cuppa, or maybe out for that well-earned walk, our Family Health podcast covers a huge range of topics that might affect one of your family members. And if you've ever got a family health concern and you're thinking you're going to just Google it, have a listen to us instead. I'm very excited today because we've got a brilliant guest for you today. It's the lovely Rachel Woolford, who is the owner and founder of North Studio. Now, North Studio is a boutique fitness business started in our very own North Leeds, where Mini First Aid began too. And Rachel is a true entrepreneur. She won the 2024 series of The Apprentice. What a start. And I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we are here to grill Rachel on her expertise, because we're going to talk about pregnancy and postpartum recovery with the realm of exercise. So I think, if I'm honest, with my 6 children, that I'm still in that recovery, even though they turned 7 this year. So I'm all here for all the advice. So Rachel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thank you for the intro, Kate. So owner and founder of North Studio. We have a studio in Leeds and we also expanded over to Harrogate a couple of years ago. So really proud of where the business has gone to and hopefully continuing to grow it later on in the year. We offer small group fitness classes to a complete range of people, all age groups. And our basis is all about inclusivity and trying to get more people into movement, not just for their physical health, but for the mental health benefits as well, which I believe since COVID, it is a lot more prevalent and people are speaking about it a lot more now. So it's something I'm really proud of, and it's a community that I've just loved building.
Amazing. Rachel, I want to go straight in and talk about pregnancy and exercise, because when you find out you're having a baby, it can be quite daunting to think about what exercise you should be doing, could be doing, or, may even want to try. What's your thoughts?
Absolutely. It is. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And I think there's also not been a great deal or enough research is probably what I should say, enough research on this particular topic. I think a generational view, and I'm talking about my grandparents' view of it, would have been you're pregnant, you do not exercise, you do not move. For the next 9 months, you stay completely still and you rest. And I was speaking to my mum about this, and I know when she was pregnant with me, which was a long time ago now, 30 years ago, but exercising, it wasn't promoted to be done pregnant. But then post pregnancy, you're left with a different body that you want to get back to your old body, and so I think it's really tough for mums. But the good thing is there's a lot more help and resources out there now, and thank God it is now common knowledge, or it's becoming more common knowledge, that exercise is entirely safe to do pregnant, as long as you're having a normal birth, or as long as your health practitioner has not said otherwise. And in fact, I personally advocate for the fact that exercise it's more important to exercise than not to exercise when you are pregnant. There are so many physical benefits, but not just when you're prenatal, but for post as well. There is evidence to suggest that your recovery is easier, but also I just touched on mental health and exercise. The mental health benefits are so important, and your body's changing, your body is pumped with hormones. It is so important to look after yourself, because I do believe we can be quite vulnerable at that stage of our lives, and especially if it's the first time you're going through it. And it is so important not to give up your pregnancy routine if you can. And of
Yeah.
course, as you progress through your pregnancy, that is going to change as you get heavier and you become more tired. But it is really important that we keep exercising during this period of our lives.
I can definitely, like, vividly remember when I had my first baby that, you know, I used to love gym classes and going to aerobics at the time. I know there's a load more choice now, but and suddenly that thought that, oh, I needed to put the brakes on, and having grandparents who went, oh, get your feet up now, get your feet up now. Your body's job is to grow your baby. But there is this lovely feeling, isn't there? The endorphins racing from when you've done some exercise. Is there any reason why people shouldn't exercise when they're pregnant? Is there anything that says absolutely no?
If your doctor's told you to, not to, then absolutely listen to them.
Yeah.
And also, I think another reason would be if you're not feeling like it that day, don't put pressure on yourself, because yes, it is important to exercise. But I know from speaking to some of the lovely pregnant clients we've got here, they'll come in on particular days and they just say, I just can't do it today, I'm so tired. And there's a fine line between saying, come on, get yourself up there and you're going to feel great afterwards. But if you genuinely aren't feeling like it that day, I think it's really important not to compare yourself and just remember you're going through a lot, your body's changing, and it's okay to have a day off. You don't need to be going crazy in the gym every day throughout your pregnancy.
I mean, I remember also seeing people doing varying exercises, you know, different things on social media. So you might see that, you know, I'm sure there was probably somebody pregnant running the London Marathon this year, or there'll be something. So some people will exercise in quite an extreme way when they're pregnant. I'm assuming that's because their bodies are already used to doing that level of exercise.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to remember, if you were doing things like marathons before, or you were doing high intensity classes, you are okay to continue to do that in your pregnancy. I always suggest do the talk test. If you can still talk while you're exercising, that's a good benchmark. I've heard all sorts of different numbers coming around with where your heart rate should be. And I know people wear their Apple Watches and they're constantly looking at their watch. If that's how you want to judge it, absolutely fine. I'm not going to personally give you a specific number in your heart rate to check, but I always suggest the talk test. And things like the marathon, that sounds like a big thing, which it is. It's massive. I've done a London Marathon not pregnant, and it's a lot. But as long as you know your body better than anybody else, and you will know if you're overdoing it, is my ethos. So ensure you can talk. But the other thing as well, and I don't think many people will take this approach, but just, you don't need to start doing anything new. So say you become pregnant, you're probably not, and you've never run a marathon before, you're probably not going to start training for a marathon when you become pregnant. So it's about keeping old routines and not starting anything drastically new. And then if you want to run a marathon, maybe wait, and you've never done one before, maybe wait till you've had your baby, and then you can focus on that.
And then do it. Then go for it. So when you think about exercise that is good for you when you're pregnant, are there particular types of exercises or particular types of classes that are good or better or can help when you're pregnant?
So there's no specific prescription as such as to what specific exercises to do. There's 100% modifications that we can make. But some of the things I would always suggest to anybody pregnant, if you're looking for a non-gym option, things like walking, excellent way of getting outside, getting some fresh air, brisk walking. Low impact includes swimming. You can do Pilates. That's been massive for a lot of our demographic that are pregnant. They come in and do their Pilates, whether that's mat Pilates or reformer. There are specific yoga classes out there. So you can go along to non-specific yoga classes as well. But there are specific ones which you can go along to. And I think if you have a little search online, I'm sure you'll be able to find one local to yourself. If you aren't going to a specific pregnancy class, that is okay. All you need to do is just make sure you tell your instructor at the beginning of the class, because there are so many modifications we can make, and you can do the full class. There might just be certain modifications. So for example, one of our classes, which is a non-Pilates one, it's called the Rebuild, and it's strength focused, which is so important. Whatever stage in life you're at as a woman, strength training is so important. But in the pregnancy stage, it's still something completely safe to do. And it's not high intensity as well. So you're lifting your weights, but you're not particularly out of breath and you're not jumping around. But in something like that class, especially as you progress in your pregnancy and you start to get a little bit bigger, we'd set you up a bench so you're not doing press ups on the floor, but you're actually on an incline. So it just helps you. It helps you also get down. You're not having to get up and down off the floor all the time. So, and for example, when the other clients will be doing their core work, we'll give you some optional plank variations instead of what the non-pregnant clients will be doing.
Yeah, that's good. And I'm just, especially when you talked about that bump growing and having to change like your setup. And I just remember being pregnant with twins, and my bump was just massive, right? It was absolutely massive. I couldn't, they joke, don't they, this thing about you can't see your feet. If you're finding, particularly towards the end of pregnancy, that you are almost feeling like you can't move, is that it then? Is that exercise game over, or is there stuff that you can still do exercise-wise, even when you're feeling ginormous?
If you don't want it to be game over, there is absolutely options. I think that's always really important to remember, and don't underestimate the power of going for a nice brisk walk.
Okay.
If you can't physically get yourself in the gym, or going for a swim, I think something really important to remember is movement is better than no movement.
Okay.
And something low impact is absolutely fine, especially towards the end. But what I would suggest, we've had clients in the gym days before they've given birth, and that doesn't have to be you, just to be clear. You don't need to compare yourself. But all I'm saying, the reason I'm bringing that up is, don't doubt how far you can go with it. If you're wanting to keep going, you keep going for as long as you are comfortable to go for. And in terms of modifications for these clients that have been with us till day before, some even a day before, not on purpose, it's just kind of
it's just kind of happened, yeah.
And then they've had to cancel the class because they've gone
into labour. Brilliant.
we can set them up a bench so there's minimal moving around. They can sit on the bench. They can do their seated shoulder press. They can do their seated chest press. They can do their seated bicep curls. So they're not getting up, down, but they're still getting something in. And I think I do truly believe they appreciate that.
So we've got today of delivery, haven't we? And that's perfect. That's a perfect segue into the fact that we want to talk about postpartum as well, and that immediate period after a woman has had a baby, and whether that childbirth is a vaginal birth or cesarean birth, etc. Sometimes exercise for some people can be a distant dream. Is it what happens postnatally in those first few weeks, and what could your clients do in your experience, or what have people done postnatally for exercise?
I mean, I think it's really important for women to remember, and everyone else, not just the person that's giving birth, but it's a massive trauma to the body. You've just gone through something huge, and people do naturally want to get back into movement and exercise, but it's important to be mindful of how soon you do that. And some people feel ready to go for a walk within a few days. Some people, it might take them months. And particularly going back to whether they have a C-section or whether they have a vaginal delivery, there are slightly different guidelines. So if you have had a C-section, you are generally looking at a little bit longer until you can come into exercise, or particularly higher intensity exercise, because at the end of the day, you have had basically surgery. And how would we treat a client that's come in with any other surgery? They're looking at a couple months at least as well. So I think that's really important to remember, as frustrating as that is, and lifting something heavy up after a C-section isn't advised. So it's really important to get the sign off from the doctor. That's most important, because we can't give you that sign off. That is something that your healthcare provider needs to give you. But be mindful when you're exercising. Does this feel good, or does something not feel right? And as tempting as it is to get straight back into your HIIT classes that you were doing before, take it down a notch. We've got clients, and some of my lovely instructors alike, who have had C-sections that weren't planned. And Tash, one of my lovely girls, who will have been, I know how desperate she'll have been to get back into her exercise. And she had an unplanned C-section, and I've just had a chat with her just before I spoke to you, Kate, and it took her 16 weeks to properly exercise again, and that's coming from an extremely fit person. But there are people that we know that have taken shorter than that. So it's a personal thing. So it's really important not to compare yourself. But the key thing is ensuring you get that sign off from your healthcare provider.
Yeah, I think social media has a lot to play, right? Because, there's that talk of that, your body. I remember on all of my situations, my body looked pregnant for quite a long time after, I've had 6 babies, so it's quite extreme, I know. But, my actual body still looked pregnant. And I know that I had a 6-week check, which was where it was like, right, okay, you're good to go, in the sense of, actually you can do some gentle exercise, but also what I felt like doing, because you're absolutely shattered, and
100%.
even if you have the intention to exercise, is that when it comes to it, and then there's also that sort of key question, isn't there, about what do you do with your baby when you want to exercise? Like, where do you put them? Where do they go?
Absolutely. I mean, I think we're all asking that, and I think, can you find, and this is something that we've started doing, can you find a local class where you can take your baby along?
Yeah.
So we have a great partner that comes to use the studio called Mummy Fit, where you can physically bring your baby along. So it takes the childcare aspect away from it.
Brilliant.
But as a studio, we also offer classes for pre and postnatal, but where you can bring the baby along. But I have found sometimes some of the mums have said to me, it'd be nice to actually come without the baby and just have that 45 minutes to themselves. And I totally understand. But I guess if you haven't got that help in the middle of the day, then you have no option but to take the baby along with you. If you can't find classes, pushing the pram, get yourself up some hills, which around Leeds, as you know, Kate, not that hard to find.
No.
Get yourself to Roundhay Park.
Roundhay Park with a pram. A double pram. Yeah, absolutely. Because you can do, and I did over the years a number of classes where it was take your pram along, and go and work out.
It's amazing that that's more accessible now, because as far as again, I spoke to my mum about this, and she said I would have loved to have done something like that when you and your sister were babies, but that just didn't exist. So it's amazing that I've seen in the community, in Leeds and the wider community as well, that there are more baby-friendly classes, and it's not just fitness classes, but groups, coffee groups and things where mums can socialise, which again is so important, because you need to speak to other people that are going through the exact things you're going through too.
Yeah. I had a big thing with me, which was that I had to really have a word with myself about what I looked like in my exercise gear, my exercise clothes, versus some of the other women, because my body, that whole, I hate the phrase, but that bounce back, and that, I felt that I didn't. And I would be in a lineup with some women that, seem to pop the lycra back on, and, and that's, what's the tip? What's the way that you can sort of encourage women to be confident with it? But, they've done this magnificent thing in having a baby, but what can they do to not worry about the gym wear?
I think that's such a good point. And going back to social media, that does us no favours, because you do see a lot of the classic, I gave birth 8 weeks ago. And I don't think this person has tried to make anyone feel bad, but they look like they've never been pregnant.
It's never happened. Yeah.
No, and I'm thinking, well, you look better than me, and I've never had a baby. So,
yeah.
I think watch what you consume online is massive. Regardless, this is just in general, actually, I think, with social media, but I think also you don't know what that person looked like pre-birth, and we all have different bodies, and unfortunately some of us do take longer or shorter to get back to how we felt. But I think something important to raise as well is we're never going to be, and Tash, who works for me, I was speaking about earlier, she said your body will never be the same. No. And I think it's really important to come around to accepting that, because you've just done this amazing thing, and it's pretty spectacular actually, and so your body isn't going to look the same, but that's okay, and you can still work it. If you want to change your body, that's okay, but it's very easy to compare to what you used to look like and online. But I think as women, it's really important to accept that our bodies do change over the course of our whole lives, regardless if we have babies or not. So it's a really tough one, and I think you've got to be extremely careful what you consume, and comparison is a tough one, especially when you're going
Yeah.
to a class of people that potentially don't look like they've just had a baby.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was quite interesting to think about you saying about your classes being, inclusive, and you were thinking, talking about the way that you run your classes and what have you, is there might be some people's perception, and probably I've been guilty of this perhaps in the past, of thinking that exercise is a bit of a chore, It's that thing that, eye roll, I've got to do it. How can we find something that doesn't feel like a chore and that actually is fun and we enjoy having it as part of our lives?
I think a key thing, again, this is a general exercise advice, is finding something you do genuinely enjoy and not, for example, the London Marathon's just been on, hasn't it, 2 days ago? And people are like, okay, to be fit, I must run. And that's not the case. There are so many different things you can do to be fit and to enjoy. And that, have you tried cycling? Have you tried rowing, walking, jogging, swimming, Pilates? There's so many different things that you can do. And again, going back to the running suggestion, yeah, it's a great sport and I personally love it. But when people say to me all the time, "Oh, you're so fit because you run," it's like, no, you could go lift some weights. Your definition of fit, or each person's definition of fit is different. So don't be afraid to try different things out. And if you've never done Pilates before, why not give that a go and see if that's for you? Because you don't have to throw yourself around and do a high intensity exercise class. Pilates is a really good example of something it is high intensity, but it's low impact. So you're not having to jump around and do burpees. And same with CrossFit. People see CrossFit and they're like, "Oh, I could never do that." And personally, I wouldn't like to do CrossFit, but there's a whole boatload of people that love it. So try something different. Sign up to a few different classes. There's so much choice now. And I look at obviously what people are doing in Leeds all the time. There is so much choice compared to 5 years ago.
So you talked about earlier, you mentioned about women and strength, and tell us a bit more. Why is strength and conditioning particularly so important for women?
Strength and conditioning is so important for women because our estrogen goes down naturally when we come to the menopause, which is going to affect your bone density and affect your muscle mass. Two really important things in life. And not only does that affect how we start to look, but just taking looks aside for a second, if you fall over, you're more likely to break a bone as we get older. If you can make sure you're still lifting your weights, therefore you've got some muscle mass, you're less likely to fall over. So I always compare my mum and my grandma. My grandma had absolutely no muscle mass because her generation did not attend the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever she fell, bless her, she always broke a bone.
Yeah.
I know for a fact when my mum is that age, my mum has started working out in the last 10 to 15 years. She does Pilates, and my mum's post-menopause now, so she's gone through all the hell of menopause, shall we say. But she's now really actively ensuring that she's maintaining her muscle mass, she's exercising for her mental and her physical health, and she will have a better quality of life, I believe, than my nana will have done. And my nana had a great life, but I think my mum will have a better quality of life physically than that generation. And that's for all of my friends' mums and everybody that are now post-menopause, because there are a lot more resources available and a lot more information promoting it.
Amazing. Rachel, it's been really insightful. It's been really, really helpful. And if somebody is listening and going, right, I might be a bit late to the party, but I've never done exercise as such anywhere before, what advice would you give them?
I guess going back to what I said a few moments ago, find something you enjoy. And if you go to a fitness class and you think that was awful, it's not the be all and end all. There might be some, there are plenty of other things you can do. But also, the first time you do go to a class, it is going to be hard.
Yeah.
You don't underestimate that, and don't be put off by that, because we all start somewhere. Everyone has been in that room for the first time and thought, what is going on? Am I ever going to get fitter? And you will. Consistency is key. Can you commit to 2 sessions a week? It doesn't have to be every day. You don't need to jump all in. Can you commit to 2 or 3 sessions a week? And again, they don't have to be mega high intensity. That can include a walk. It could include some swimming. Find something you enjoy. Start to be consistent with it. And I think that is the absolute key, and build it up over time. And also don't put yourself down, because we get people coming to our classes for the first time.
Yeah.
And some of them have never been to a class before.
Mm-hmm.
And they're looking around the room and I see them do it. And then after they're like, wow, he or she was fit. They've been coming since we opened, or they've been hammering the gym for 10 years. So of course they're going to be fit, because of course they have like credit to them. They've built it up over time. So don't compare yourself to others, because we've all been there, and you have every right to build your fitness up too.
Brilliant, Rachel. It's brilliant. It's so lovely to talk to you, and I've managed to get 25 minutes of conversation without saying the word Lord Sugar to you. So when you invite somebody on to a podcast who has won the Apprentice, which is no mean feat, and I am massively in awe of what you did.
Thank you.
Talk to me about, and I'm sure people will be interested to know, particularly that Lord Sugar has invested in a fitness business, in your business. Tell us about it. How's it going? What you went through, that sort of stuff, because I'm sure people would love to know a little bit more about your journey.
Oh God, it was crazy. I mean, the business existed before I went on the show.
Yeah.
And it was a relatively busy little business. It did well. And I literally just spoke to my mum about it with a mutual friend, and my mum she went on it because she was bored. And I was like, yeah, I was. I was like, why not? We'll give it a go, because I'd watched the show for years. Went on it, didn't really expect to win it. Well, I didn't. Not really. I didn't at all. That is the bottom line. And it was a pleasant surprise, and I'll always be grateful for it. It has changed my life genuinely. There's not many times in life I think you can say that changed my life, but that did. Because yes, he invested in my business, which is great, and I've got his expertise, but there's so much more to it than the investment. Just the career opportunities I've had over the last 12 months. I've done all sorts of crazy things, and even, the opportunities to come on to podcast and speak to people like yourself. It's been amazing. I love chatting. I can chat all day. So I've met some incredible people and there's some doors that have opened that probably wouldn't have opened had I not gone on the show. So it's been 12 months, literally exactly 12 months since I was announced the winner, and it's been the craziest year of my life, but it's something I'll always be grateful for. And it's crazy thinking that I'm expanding this business with a billionaire in London. Yeah. And I'm just some girl from Leeds. Like that's what I find. Me and my mum laugh about it all the time. We just think, what happened? I just started this business in Roundhay. Do you know what I mean? But it's provided some comedy as well.
Was it nerve-wracking doing the filming, or did you forget that the crew were following you around?
I was anxious quite a lot of the time. And I don't know if it was the cameras. I think it was just I was away from home. I was away from my business. You have no access to the outside world. You don't have your telephone. I was away from home for, I think it was about 9 weeks. And I think I'd never left my business like that, ever.
Yeah.
And it still ran while I was gone. And that was stressful. So I wasn't anxious about the particular show, I'd say. I was more thinking what's going on at home. I hope the business is okay. I miss my family. You need that support. You don't realise how much you rely on your family and your friends until you're in that situation. I missed everyone. I missed my support network so much. But the cameras, it was, by the end, it was a very, I mean, you've done it. It's a very strange scenario, isn't it? And thank God it's not live, because that would have sent me.
Yeah. Have you done live telly since? Have you done you'll have done some post-winning TV?
Yeah. I have to. And that I find that quite nerve-wracking, because you could see one slip up and there's no
millions of people are watching. Yeah, you can't say let's do it again.
I'm extra conscious when it's live.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we Rachel and I sort of feel like, we've shone a little media light onto North Leeds, because if you're not aware, Mini First Aid were on Dragon's Den. I was on Dragon's Den a couple of years ago and secured investment from Sarah Davis, and it is the most surreal thing, isn't it? That you stood there in front of cameras. And I remember, as I'm sure you did, going in the boardroom, that having watched this, grown up with this programme, and I came out of this infamous lift, and there is Deborah Meaden sat right in front of me, and then Sarah and the rest of the Dragons. And you must did that same feeling of walking into a boardroom and thinking, I've watched this on the telly and now I'm sat in it. It's just bonkers, isn't it?
The most bizarre moment of my life.
Yeah.
Walking into that boardrooms. I think The Apprentice started when I was about 10 or 11. And I've watched it, like you say, growing up. And then you walk in and I was directly in front of Karen Brady, and in my head I'm thinking, what have I signed up to here? And you're like, I am a fool. What have I done? What have I done? But like, it's too late now. I've got to go along with it. So that is hands down. That the first moment of walking to that boardroom is more bizarre than winning the show.
Rachel, it's fascinating. We could talk for hours. We'd talk for hours. I need to come and get on your treadmill and come and talk to you at the same time. We'll do the talking challenge. We'll do the talking challenge together. Did you get to do any exercise while you were staying in the house? Did you manage to keep up your own training?
They had a little gym, but the thing is, you're out from 5 a.m. till sometimes 10 o'clock at night. So some days it wasn't possible. I really missed it, and they knew that was my thing. And again, that's my mental outlet, and it was a very mentally challenging time week, so I needed it. So when I could, I would get in that gym, and it wasn't always longer than 20 minutes. It was, it might be really short, but I had to do something, because to me, movement is so important for, yes, physical, but my mental health. And I feel I have so much more clarity when I've done a workout or when I've got some fresh air. And unfortunately, in those circumstances, it just wasn't always possible. So it was really good. It was a really good test of resilience, actually, because it's my fitness is my comfort. So, like, it is my comfort, and it's what I rely on. So it was strange having it taken away from me, or not being able to do it as often as I like to usually.
And I think you talking about mental well-being sort of links us back into the whole premise of our conversation today, which is that, you think of exercise to get fit, but actually for women pre and postnatal, mental, it's important for everybody, but particularly for women pre and postnatal, mental wellness is key, and exercise contributes to that, doesn't it?
100%. And I think it's important, if anybody's listening to this and is potentially going through, or they believe that they're potentially suffering with postnatal depression, it doesn't matter if you've never suffered with depression before or not. It can we're all vulnerable to it. And I was reading stats earlier, and it's as many as 2 in 10 women, and that's just what's being reported. I've got friends who've never had any mental health issues before, and they've really struggled. And you're not alone, and there are resources. Make sure you speak to somebody. Exercise does contribute to helping in relieve those symptoms, but it's serious. So speak to your doctor and make sure you're listened to. Don't be turned away, because I think it's very easy to go along to these doctor's appointments, from what I've been told, and be told it'll go away in a few weeks.
Yeah, the baby blues.
Unfortunately, you have to be quite demanding at the moment, as we all know, when you want to be listened to. So just make sure you get your point across and speak to someone, because more often than not, if it's not a friend, your friend will know somebody who's also going through it. And it's so common, and it doesn't matter how old you are, how much help you've got. You can have all the help in the world. It's possible to happen to anybody, so don't be ashamed of it, and just make sure you speak to somebody.
Rachel, that's really helpful. Thank you. We always do at this point in the podcast, we always ask our guests to give us, I don't know whether it's ever actually possible to have one takeaway, but if people listening could take away one piece of advice when it comes to exercise and fitness, what would it be from you? What would you say to everybody?
Whatever movement makes you happy and makes you enjoy the gym and gives you that boost is valid. It doesn't have to be what you see on Instagram or what your friend does or what you've heard is the newest trend. Whatever makes you feel good, keep doing it.
Rachel, that's brilliant. You've been listening to Rachel Woolford, who was the Apprentice winner in 2024. Congratulations, Rachel, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. You've been listening to the Family Health Podcast. As always, make sure you subscribe so that the new episodes each week drop into your inbox. And please do let us know if there are family health related subjects that we haven't covered yet, or you would like more information on. Please drop us a line, because we would absolutely love to cover them and invite brilliant guests just like Rachel to come and talk to us. Thank you very much for listening. You've been listening to the Family Health Podcast.
And just a little reminder from me and our sponsor, Things Happen, that if reviewing your life insurance is still on your to-do list, take time to get in touch with a Things Happen advisor today.